Coming up in today's programme, Kent school children get the chance to practice their foreign language skills, become MEPs for the day, and vote on the future of Europe. Several times a year, groups of secondary pupils from all 25 member countries have the opportunity to get together in Strasbourg to learn more about the European Parliament and debate topical issues. At the same time, they will learn to appreciate the diverse cultures and shared expectations that make up the EU. Teacher Rick Kirby has brought a party of 14 to 16-year-olds from 3 English schools to Strasbourg to take part in the Euro Scholar Conference. It was a long coach journey from their home in Kent, so their first full day in France is spent sightseeing.
This is really a cross-curricular visit. Many of the schools do concentrate quite heavily on the languages, and obviously with the number of languages spoken here, that makes sense. The politics, the citizenship is another important part. Geography less important, though we do mention various features as we come through, and we do try to keep them a little bit abreast of the history.
We'll then look into the cathedral, a few minutes there. When we've done that, we'll come out, get a map of the place from the tourist office, and we'll then divide you into groups, or you divide yourselves into groups and go off around Strasbourg.
The visit to Strasbourg and the Euro Scholar Day has been organised through the UK Office of the European Parliament.
The majority of the programme is for 16 to 18-year-olds, but there are 2 or 3 days a year which are set aside specially for the 14 to 16 age group. The Euroscholar programme was started back in 1993 with the aim of bringing together children from all the different member states of the European Union for a day in Strasbourg where they get the opportunity to discuss topical issues, draw up resolutions and vote on them. And it also gives them the opportunity to meet with their counterparts from all the different member states. Any school can apply. There is a small subsidy as well, and it's based on the distance travelled. So if you're coming from Scotland, you'll get more than if you're coming from Dover.
Excusez-moi, s'il vous plaît. Où est le fleuve, s'il vous plaît?
Most of the group we have brought will have been before. But when I say they've been abroad before, some of them will have been on a day trip to Calais. Others will have done the Mallorca and the Costas, where really the only language they come into contact with is English, and the only culture, more or less, is English. So for quite a few, this is the first what I would call foreign experience. We do encourage them to speak French, even if it is only a little bit of shopping, perhaps ordering something to eat and drink. But they've had a bit of French culture. They realise people are different rather than better or worse.
The next day starts early for the Euro Scholar delegates. 500 pupils from countries throughout the Union converge on the European Parliament. The first item on the agenda is breakfast.
I know, there's like people from Malta and things. I was like looking on the little sheet. There's people from everywhere.
Most of the day will be spent in the main parliamentary debating chamber, known as the hemicycle.
The typical reaction when they come here is, oh, that's big. Then they come into the inside. They're fine until they go into the chamber. Every time you get a gasp of something like amazement from the youngsters. Each school has to give a very short talk about either their school or their area and introduce it to the entire conference in a language they're learning.
This is our first visit to France, and we feel very privileged to be able to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much to you.
I would find that incredibly nerve-wracking. How 14-year-olds manage to cope with it, I'm not really sure, because they're standing up talking in front of perhaps 400 or 500 people in a language that they're probably not that confident in. But I've always been quite amazed by the way they perform. I think they do very well.
States want to join the Union. They are not obliged.
The morning is taken up with a lengthy explanation from officials about the constitution of the European Union and the role of Parliament. Someone who knows intimately how it all works is Christopher Beasley, one of the UK's 78 MEPs.
It's not like Westminster, where you have a government party and one major opposition party. You have, in a sense, a series of parties, and when we meet together, we sit in our political groups. There are very, very few issues, if you think about it, where one country is completely agreed across all the political groups. And given the fact that there are 25 countries, one country alone is never going to win an argument. So there's got to be a degree of give and take and a degree of agreement across the political groups.
Teachers find this a very strange day. They have to give up their pupils to the tender mercies of the European Parliament. Next, they're told they may not say anything, they may not ask questions, and they may not participate, which they find a little strange. They do have a session together in the afternoon where quite a lot of educational work does take place. A lot of links are forged, and I know those continue for quite a few years.
Lunch comes as a welcome break.
What's that one, which?
To help the conversation along, there is a light-hearted quiz about Europe and European culture. The students have their own version of the quiz, but for the teachers, the questions are more difficult. Knowledge of lots of different languages is involved, so only by forming a multinational consortium does anyone have a chance of winning.
De ces quatre pays, et ces quatre pays, c'est Irlande, les copines de ce matin, Lituanie, Lettonie, Lituanie, Irlande et Danemark. Quel est le
Wir haben einfach getippt, dass es am meisten europäische Einrichtungen sind.
Well, Luxembourg's also surrounded. That's Poland. That's Austria.
I think it's Austria.
It must be Poland. If you'd like to do your pen trick, it'll be as accurate as anything else. No, wrong question.
After lunch, it's back to work with a vengeance.
Okay, so please listen, everybody. As you can see, we've got 7 candidates for being in our committee.
After lunch, the students split into working groups, usually of about 100. And this is, I suppose you could say, when they become MEPs for the afternoon.
The next candidate, please.
Hi, I'm Joanne, I'm 14, I'm from the United Kingdom, and I think you should pick me for spokesperson because I'm not scared to talk in front of loads of people and I can listen to you and put your views across.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ruben from Portugal. I'm
Within
16.
their working group, they elect a chairman and also what they call a rapporteur, which is the person who will actually present the resolution they draw up later. They then have a topic to discuss, for instance, human rights, consumer protection, and environmental problems such as pollution.
We're thinking of ideas for priorities for the Europe of tomorrow, either economical, political, institutional or social.
The themes are given in advance, so there is the possibility to do a bit of research and prepare notes for the discussion so that they know where they're coming from.
We should have a second language which we should all learn.
Yeah, but they've tried that before and it didn't work.
Yeah, but you can try things again when they don't work.
A language is what makes a country, so you should leave it, really.
Yeah, but I mean a second language.
And they have to draw up a resolution on the issue that they've been discussing. After they've done that, all the students reassemble again in the chamber.
Apart from the fact that it's all over in one day, the democratic process that the pupils are enacting is very similar to the working of the real European Parliament.
Before a law can actually be agreed by the Council of Ministers, it comes before the European Parliament. The relevant committee tables amendments, there's a debate in the committee, then the operation is repeated before the full Parliament, so there are effectively 2 votes. The democratic input of the European Parliament is that no proposal becomes law without all the MEPs being involved in either agreeing, throwing out the agreement or amending it.
Now, this is the committee chaired by Alexa from the Netherlands. The rapporteur is Joanne from the United Kingdom and the secretary is Ruben from Portugal.
Our subject is the future of Europe. But future, you may ask. Future has a wide range definition. It can be
As rapporteur, Joanne has to summarise the recommendations of her committee.
a second language should be chosen, and we had a vote after many problems, and that language should be English, so communication is found easier.
Gracias.
Thank you. Now, do you agree with what's been said, including the idea of adopting English as a second compulsory language? 320, please stand up.
If English is your second language, then it's all, everyone's the same. There's nothing between the countries. Your heritage is taken away.
Why don't we use Spanish as a second language in all the secondary schools in Europe?
English is it's a language that is widely spoken in the whole world, much more than Spanish. And I think it's an easy language to learn.
Je pense que chacun a sa diversité dans l'Europe.
I think that everyone is different in Europe, and I think that we have to keep our own identity through languages as well. So, differences through culture and language. Thank you very much. Now we'll vote on the proposals put forward by the committee. Let's see whether you agree. So, the vote is now open.
The left button for yes, the right button for no, and the middle button if you're not really sure what you're doing. You can now vote.
The vote is closed. The results, please. 296 votes have been cast, 111 in favour, 156 against. The report is rejected.
Bien. Y esto funciona como funciona.
Well, yes, you see, this is how things work in the European Parliament. It often happens that a report might be approved in committee and then the plenary may reject it because it disagrees.
Most of the pupils that come over here have got a very Eurosceptic attitude, though most of them will accept they don't know a vast amount about Europe. When they've been here, the general reaction with most is, well, we now know more about it. Quite a few of them go back with a less sceptical attitude. I don't think we send anybody back as a complete Euro enthusiast because they say, well, yeah, but some of what we listened to, we didn't understand. It was just too complicated. But generally, yes, they've got more information, perhaps go back a little bit more open-minded. That would certainly be my hope as to what would come out of it.
That is indeed the end of the Euro Scholar Day. I would like to see one or the other of you back in the chamber. The only condition is you have to be elected as member to the European Parliament. And so perhaps we'll see each other again. Thank you and goodbye.
You can find further information on this and other similar school trips by looking under the Resources and Support Materials section on our website www.teachers.tv/worth the trip.